Today, I'm very happy to welcome Shivani Doctor to the show.
What a lot of people don't know is that 90% of our serotonin is actually made by the gut microbiome, or simply put, the bacteria that are inherently there in our gut. Gut is really where all the root cause of diseases start, and the inflammation starts, and the dysbiosis starts. So really.
Gut is not a buzzword. It really is important.
It could be a perfectly healthy piece of broccoli or cauliflower or carrot, but the immune system is not used to seeing it in that molecule size. And now it's thinking, it's something foreign that I have to attack. Whether you were born by C-section or whether you were born by vaginal delivery, it does impact your microbiome. Were you breastfed or were you bottle fed? That changes your microbiome. Did you eat a lot of sweets or did you not eat a lot of sweets? That changes. Don't do your finances at night. Don't see the news nowadays at night. Don't read newspapers at night. Like, things that put your body in a fight or flight mode are going to distort the gut, and they're also going to distort the brain.
Welcome to the Rita Date Show, where you find information on M&M, mind, nutrition, movement. Information all backed by science. Today, I'm very happy to welcome Shivani Doctor to the show. Doctor is her last name. Shivani is an integrative health specialist. Her background, she has a bachelor's in homeopathic medicine and surgery. She has worked in cardiothoracic surgery, interventional radiology, and vascular surgery. She went on into the Institute of Functional Medicine, and she founded her own Integrative Health and Aesthetics, which focuses on the root causes of disease. Shivani is based in Washington, D.C., and has clients all over the world. Welcome, Shivani. I'm so happy to have you here. So, Shivani, what is integrative medicine?
So, Rita, first of all, thank you for having me on your podcast. It's lovely to kind of be here in this forum with you. I know you're passionate about this topic just as much as I am, if not more, and loved reading your book. So congratulations on that. And yes, that's a great question to start with. What is integrative medicine? So integrative medicine is a patient-centered, evidence-based healthcare approach that combines kind of conventional medicine, or what we commonly know as allopathic medicine in India or across the globe, with complementary therapies like lifestyle changes. It could be yoga, meditation, Tai Chi, PT, OT. So any of these complementary therapies which are evidence-based to treat the whole person. So their body, mind, and spirit. The emphasis is the partnership between the patient and the practitioner. So it's not about me telling my patients what is right and what is wrong and what they need to do, but it is a collaboration to kind of figure out what the best treatment plan is, whether it is practically possible for them. If not, then what are the roadblocks, if you will, in their path? And then we work together to kind of come up with a plan to tackle those roadblocks as well. So again, and the basis of this is foundational functional health principles. So we talk about nutrition, we talk about hydration, movement, sleep is critically important, and something that that is not brought up and probably taken for granted is like meaningful relationships, community, and stress management, right? So those things are not bought out, but in that mind, body, and spirit realm, that those are actually very, very important. So
everything is just so connected. Now, in the introduction, I mentioned that you worked in high stress cardiovascular ER situations, OR situations, and I think you said you saw people at their worst, in the sense health-wise. That's why they're in there. And that's why you wanted to get into the root causes. So how did that click for you? Like, how did it happen?
So actually, my background is in homeopathic medicine and surgery, which I completed in India, in Mumbai, and then I followed that up with counseling psychology. So there was already that a little bit of that mental realm was there. And then when I started working cardiothoracic surgery, I kind of saw how hypertension, diabetes, metabolic disorders ended up with like plaque in the arteries. And then here that patient is with me on the operating room getting a bypass surgery. And I was like, all along, yes, they're told that they need to manage their diet, they need to manage their nutrition, but how do they do it? Like, the time to actually sit and educate them on how to reverse that process. So that kind of got me thinking on what is the root cause? Where is all this coming from, and how can we educate our patients better, and how can we motivate them better where they want to do it on their on their own. And that also kind of got me interested in the root cause of diseases. So where does all of this start? And that's how I came across functional medicine and how gut health was actually so critical, along with hormone health and neurotransmitter health. But gut is really where all the root cause of diseases start, and the inflammation starts, and the dysbiosis starts. So really.
So gut is not a buzzword. It really is important.
Absolutely. So, most people know that digestion of what we eat happens in the gut, and then nutrition absorption happens in the gut, commonly known fat. But what a lot of people don't know is that 90% of our serotonin is actually made by the gut microbiome, or simply put, the bacteria that are inherently there in our gut. And they are tens and millions and trillions of times more than the DNA that we have in our own body. And it's a very symbiotic kind of relationship that we have with our gut microbiome. So, the fact, if we do not produce the serotonin, which interestingly downstream also converts to melatonin, then we are kind of, the mood is not there, the sleep is not there, and that leads to kind of inflammation in the body. That leads to what we call enhanced intestinal permeability, which is kind of think of a muslin cloth that we use to hang like curd to get the thick paneer.
Yeah, the hard curd.
Yeah, paneer, or So that cloth is your intestinal lining. Now with dysbiosis, which is loss of balance of the bacteria, or overt infections, there can be a stretching of that cloth, and when that is enhanced, the food that is digested can go into the bloodstream in a bigger particle than what the body or the immune system is used to. And now, it could be a perfectly healthy piece of broccoli or cauliflower or carrot, but the immune system is not used to seeing it in that molecule size. And now it's thinking, it's something foreign that I have to attack. And so there is autoimmunity, or immune hypervigilance, where the body starts kind of attacking its own tissue, which we call molecular mimicry. So there are certain things like gluten, which is there in wheat, and it kind of mimics the thyroid tissue. And so when the immune system mounts this attack, it also now attacks the thyroid tissue, and that's how we get Hashimoto's thyroiditis. So nutrition and immune system and gut microbiome, these are all kind of like related. And so when you ask how I got into it, it definitely piqued my interest, like how fascinating all this was, and how it got, it's connected to everything.
So when you were mentioning about the broccoli and carrot, so it's nothing to do with like, it's basically how everybody's individual, because people can digest that properly. So when they cannot, it's very individual thing, right? I mean, you must have to spend a lot of time with your patients, much different than the regular, physician that we see for 5-10 minutes. So typically you must have to, and every time, I mean, you must be having to assess them and yeah.
So the typical intake session, the first session is about 90 minutes. So we don't just talk about, past, we do everything that we would do in a conventional practice, but we really talk about what happens since birth, because it does change your microbiome, whether you were born by C-section or whether you were born by vaginal delivery, it does impact your microbiome. Were you breastfed or were you bottle fed? That changes your microbiome. Did you eat a lot of sweets or did you not eat a lot of sweets? That changes. Did you have a lot of antibiotics as a baby? Did you have a lot of ear infections as a baby? So we kind of form a timeline of what brought the person to the point that they are. And we say, what were the antecedents, kind of like the background story? What were the triggers that kind of finally was, like the last straw in the camel's back? And now they have this process. So yeah, it's very, very interesting.
So how reliable are these microbiome tests that you have?
I typically start with symptoms. And I always say that we have to remember that these tests are a snapshot in a big picture. So
you assess their gut health first, I know, and then okay, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, so absolutely, you're on the right track. So yes, the symptoms are first, what the patient tells you is first, but if they've already tried the foundational functional health principles, they're in a great place with nutrition. They're in a great place with sleep hygiene and sleep and hydration. All this is great, or just needs a little bit of work and they're in a good position. And the symptoms are not getting better with supplements and stuff. I will then recommend a microbiome test. Essentially is a comprehensive stool test. So it not just tells you about the microbiome status, but it also tells you about the digestive enzymes that the person has, the type of digestion from the breakdown products, the type of, breakdown of the microbiome itself, whether there's an overgrowth of certain microorganisms, and that's why they might have certain symptoms.
Do we have these tests in India? Do you know if we have these?
I know we do not right now, but there are some of these tests can be done individually, for checking for inflammation. I know you can check a calprotectin, which is part of the comprehensive stool test. You can check it if you go to a gastroenterology physician in India, they would be able to check it. I know you can check for parasites in India.
We have a lot of those.
Yeah, well, and it does. And interestingly, the microbiome is different from region to region. So some of the parasites might be inherent to certain areas in India, and it's just fine. The bacteria kind of balance with it. It depends on what kind of symptoms they're having with the parasites and whether we need to annihilate them completely or what needs to happen with them. Same with the fungus, same with the viruses. It's not just that the bacteria are there in the gut. All these, they have their own colony within the gut. And as long as they're in balance, then it's a good thing. The minute they get out of balance, and there are lots of reasons why they could get out of balance, but that's when the problems start. That enhanced inflammation starts, the enhanced intestinal permeability starts, which needs to be reversed then.
So, in India, our problems. We have, of course, undernutrition and obesity as well. So we know, fundamentally, everybody knows, okay, you should not eat junk food, you should not eat fried food, you should, all that. But if someone comes to you with, they want to lose the last 10 pounds and they're not sleeping, and I know that you cannot tell me this in 5 minutes because it takes an hour and a half or more, but generally, what are the main changes, dietary changes, Indians can make?
So again, it's a very broad question. So I'm going to condense that, I'm going to say that this person, we are talking about the Indian person, because the nutrition is quite different, right? Like if you're a vegetarian versus someone who eats actually some kind of meat-based or fish-based protein.
Let's go with vegetarian. Let's go with vegetarian.
Vegetarian, okay,
Yeah.
that definitely makes it easier. So with vegetarian diet, it depends on what kind of vegetarian diet they're having. You can have vegetarian. This was actually my master's thesis. I was in India and I collected blood work, and I'm a vegetarian. So I was going to be very proud and, come out like a preconceived notion. I was like, oh yeah, the vegetarians are going to have the best kind of blood work. Then I had one group that ate fish and, vegetables. And then I had a third group that ate red meat, some red meat. And so lo and behold, the vegetarians were actually the last, because the kind of vegetarian diet that they were having was mostly like fried vegetables, very high in carbs, like refined carbohydrates, like a lot of rice, a lot of potatoes, not a good mix of like green vegetables and lentils. And, if it is a well-balanced diet, any of those diets could be a good diet for that individual. But if you are heavily focused on one of those macronutrients, but then you're not utilizing that macronutrient, that's when you are going to get into the cycle of, getting abdominal girth, which is like a big point in metabolic syndrome, and we try to reverse. So vegetarians, I think, they are at the highest risk if they don't monitor what kind of macronutrition they're taking in and what kind of utilization they have.
Right. Basically, they're not moving enough, and if they're having too many carbs,
Yes.
layman's terms.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Then that's not going to be a good diet for them. But a mix of, I'm digressing a little bit, but there are also CGMs now, continuous
Yes.
glucose monitoring systems, right? I know they're available in India. You can motivate a patient, whether it be a patient who's vegetarian, meat eating, but it gives them a sense of control and educates them on, if I eat this much quantity of rice, but I combine it with the lentil, because there's vascular in it, it slows down the digestion, it slows down the glucose absorption, and they don't see that many spikes. So again, that's why I say it's very individual.
Absolutely.
Customize it, but we need to know, and we need to know what their baseline is. If you just start giving out, okay, yes, we can start by, okay, this would be a good macronutrition for plan for you based on your weight and where your goal weight is, or what a good goal weight would be for you. But then it has to be customized.
Right. So let's talk about the F word, fiber.
Yes.
So generally in our balanced diet, we should be getting enough, but we're not Indians. So, I know the US, of course, they're not, but Indian, you would think that we're having homemade foods and et cetera. So why is that? And what can we do to increase that?
So when we talk about fiber, I'll give you a little bit of background on what, there are two types of fiber. There's soluble and then there's insoluble. And as the name suggests, soluble fiber is what can dissolve in water, forms like a gel-like substance. And the insoluble fiber basically is something that does not dissolve in water. The soluble fiber are things like oats, bran, wheat bran, citrus fruits, strawberries, things like that. And then insoluble fibers. I'm drawing a blank right now, Rita.
That's okay. Insoluble, you'll get back to it. So you need a combination of both.
Yes, because one is to provide bulk to the stool, and one is actually for the motility of the stool. So you need kind of a combination of both of those fibers essentially in your diet. And if it is a well-balanced Indian diet, there is plenty of fiber. But again, I've seen more in the cities where the trend is now towards more of, convenience foods, or there is the same rush that there is in the US.
Yeah.
There's not freshly prepared meals. It's not a well-balanced meal. Then yes, there's not enough fiber in the diet. But otherwise, I would say Indian meals, if you're really having the thali at every meal and having it in good proportions, then there is enough fiber in the Indian meals.
So what do you tell your US patients? Because I know they have even less time to cook and they don't have a cook generally.
Yeah.
What are your tips on cooking and getting the right balance on your plate?
Yeah, so definitely talk about meal preps in the US specifically. Weekend meal preps is very important. We talk about not going to the grocery store, being hungry, eat a meal and then go to the grocery store. Go to the grocery store with a list actually of the foods that you're going to cook, not just do a random like sweep through of the grocery store. And then have specific recipes. What are you going to have for your breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Do your chopping, do your cutting over the weekend. Try, if it's an Indian household, I'll even say do your lentils, steam them,
Right.
cut your veggies, parboil the rice, and then you can just do the finishing touches during the weekdays, and that seems to work for most people, as long as they know what they're doing in terms of meal, like what meals they're having, then it's a better control. And as long as they have the meals semi-prepped, because once you come back home and if you're hungry, you go for the snacks. But if you have a plan in place and it takes a little bit of time to just get the food from the semi-cooked phase into the cooked phase and on the table, then most people in the US are going to have dinner by 5:36. It's not a very late dinner, and then all they have to do is avoid kind of snacking, that late night snacking. That's the other thing I always talk about.
These are all good tips for there's a lot of working women here, and even if you do have help, cooking in India is a little more intricate. So these tips really do go a long way. Yeah, I remember, I grew up in the US and my mother was working, but on Sundays, she would have 3 curries ready. Things last longer, maybe also, but in any way, she had 3 curries ready for the, at least 3-4 nights we were good. So yeah, I think prepping and the desire to have the homemade food and not take the easy way out. And I think also getting everybody involved is not just the woman's job. That's important as well.
Yes.
And here too, I think that is slowly changing in the cities at least. And hopefully.
I feel like a lot of men are enjoying cooking now versus wanting, I don't know if everybody wants to do it day to day, but there are definitely days. And now kids too, my kids will pick up a night or two during the week where they'll make the meals and they know it has to accommodate everyone's preferences. So, it's good before they go to college if they know what nutrition is, how to read nutrition labels, and how to kind of identify dyes and colors and certain things if they're picking, things for the pantry rather than the produce section. It's good for them to know how to read labels.
Yeah, absolutely. So in addition to, I know, of course, the gut is a primary focus. How do you find stress? Does stress cause many problems? And how do you deal with that? And what do you tell your patients about that?
Yeah. So again, very good question. So stress, the gut-brain axis, and we talk a lot about that. It's a two-way communication street. I'll go to the gut first because it's almost like your second brain. It kind of informs the brain of what is going on in the environment through what is getting into the body. So if you are going to put things that agitate the immune system, the brain is going to be in that fight or flight situation. And the reverse is true too. Like if you, that saying, right, butterflies in the stomach, then you're anxious. That is true. Because like if there's anxiety in the brain, there's the enteric nervous system and the vagus nervous system, and the communication is constantly there back and forth. So I actually use a lot of meditation, breathing techniques for calming the nervous system and the enteric system down. You know, the box breathing, the 4-6-8 method, or just kind of
paying attention to your, just calming it down. Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. So that is helpful with the stress. So you notice as you bring your the vagal system down, then you notice like the rest of your heart rate kind of goes down, that heart rate variability is down, the stomach feels better, the brain kind of calms down also in the way. And same with the hormones too, you know, because again, that serotonin piece is there. You want that good balance in that happiness molecule and the immune system pathway too. So as long as the immune system is not overactive or underactive, because when you when the immune system is underactive is when you get chronic diseases. Overactive, you'll get things like eczema, psoriasis, things like that. And you know, stress, you'll actually have a flare up of these things when you have stress.
It's amazing how that affects everything. You know,
absolutely does. It absolutely does. So the gut-brain connection, I always say, is very real. There is more and more research coming out of for it every day. It's no longer that, you know, we thought it is. We don't know. It definitely is. There's plenty of research out there now. So yeah.
Sleep. It's a problem I have, and I've, you know, do many things for it and tried many things, but tell us how that worsens the gut issues. I can tell when I don't sleep, I eat more, those kind of things, but explain that as well. By the way, you know, I think what has helped me while sleeping is our face is always tensed. You know, like when we're just relaxing the face helps relax the whole body. Like, you know, the breath is related, of course, but you know, because when you're thinking, you're using your facial muscles. And even that, when I teach yoga and meditation, first thing I do is relax the face. So anyway, please.
Yes. Have you heard of the tapping?
I haven't tried it, but I want to try it. That's a good point for the
facial tensing also. Yes, it works. Actually, I kind of learned about it from one of my patients who said, you need to look into this because you recommend so many different things. This actually works. And then I kind of tried it and it actually does work. So tapping, something to look into if you're not tried.
I'll look into that.
Yeah.
But you can explain how it why does it affect the gut, the sleep?
The gut. So the sleep again, if you don't sleep enough, the cortisol piece, which is the stress hormone, is going to rise. Cortisol is very inflammatory. Inflammation in the gut is not going to allow for enough production or cause dysbiosis. That dysbiosis is not going to allow for enough serotonin to be produced. So there's not going to be enough melatonin. So sleep is going to be affected. So you see how it's a vicious cycle. Like it starts with having one night of bad sleep can do this cycle. And it takes so much sleep hygiene to kind of reverse this process back. So right now, I always say that poor sleep will cause dysbiosis, it will cause inflammation, it will cause that enhanced intestinal permeability because there is a rise of cortisol. Cortisol and melatonin are kind of yin and yang. Cortisol needs to rise in the morning and then go down towards the evening, so the body knows it's time to rest and rejuvenate. And melatonin needs to spike at the evening time. And if that dance does not happen, then if the cortisol spikes at night, you are not going to get good sleep. So I always tell my patients, like, don't do your finances at night. Don't see the news nowadays at night. Don't read newspapers at night. Like, things that put your body in a fight or flight mode are going to distort the gut, and they're also going to distort the brain, because the body is thinking it needs to start fighting. It doesn't really differentiate whether you are in that situation and you're just reading it, or it's actually happening to you. So it's a very ancient response that, the body, like seeing a lion, and that response of fight or flight, that's what's triggered. So sleep is an essential part of that whole mechanism. That's when rest and rejuvenation happens, but you have to feel safe for that to happen peacefully. The other piece is the hormones with it. So the gut, you also detoxify hormones through the gut. So there's an enzyme called beta-glucuronidase. It couples with a carrier molecule, the estrogen couples with a carrier molecule and gets out of the gut. And this enzyme, which is produced by some bacteria, can uncouple it and have the estrogen recycle in your body. And this can cause some high hormone sensitive cancers as well. So again, constipation, gut health important, sleep important, again, which was your main question, because you don't want that cortisol spiking, and this is kind of a downstream effect of a very, very simple, a thing that we think is very simple, but it's not. Progesterone, especially in perimenopausal, menopausal women, it kind of starts decreasing. It's extremely important for sleep. So we do a lot of compounded progesterone, which is, again, a little bit different, but hormonal health is a very integral part of integrative health. So I kind of, want to pull that in, and we're talking about beta-glucuronidase. Progesterone is very important for bone health, breast health, brain health, for sleep, for mood. So again, women in the perimenopausal, menopausal age, which is a lot of my friends right now, we don't have to suffer through it. There is definitely, kind of hope and treatment for that as well.
Okay, that's good to know. So what about, people ask me about probiotics. Is in the Indian diet, generally we do have dahi every day. Of course, sometimes South Indian food, and is that enough? What do you say?
I say consistency is key. If you are going to have that much amount of yogurt every day, and yogurt has certain type of probiotics. The more we know about microbiome, we know certain microbiota help with certain things. Like the latest is the Akkermansia helps with blood sugar regulation. So not everything is in a probiotic, but if you are eating a colorful diet, which is think of the rainbow. And if you're getting something from the rainbow every day in your diet, you're having your dahi every day, you don't need a probiotic. I personally take it because I am not able to, as hard as I try, I cannot have every single thing from the rainbow every day. And I love yogurt, but I don't have it every day. So again, it's more about that consistency. It's about the amount that you get in the probiotic versus you would get in. And then there are maintenance. For maintenance, yogurt might be fine. But if you're doing it for a therapeutic reason, for someone who's healing their gut lining and coming out of, say, something like IBS, SIBO or something like that, then you do want a therapeutic dose, very different from someone who's
even like we were saying, people aren't having the thali, every day, like at least twice a week, 3 times a week. You might have a pasta, Chinese food, whatever. So that dahi is not there. So it's something that we have to consider. I know that you in your practice you see skin problems a lot, and that's one of the symptoms. And in fact, the name of your practice is Aesthetics. part of it
Yes.
is aesthetics. So can you tell us about that,
Yeah.
how the gut affects the skin?
Yeah, so it's a very interesting because with the inflammation, with the enhanced intestinal permeability come food sensitivities, and the body think of the skin as a mirror to what's going on in the stomach. So if there are food sensitivities, you could the skin could come up with eczema. That usually we've seen, like if people control dairy, the eczema gets better. They control their gluten, the eczema gets better. But the root cause is that there's inflammation and that there is, that enhanced intestinal permeability is there, and it's the body's way of telling you, okay, something is wrong in the gut, but it's on the skin. So typically people would come in because of the skin, and then we would kind of do the gut healing, and then the eczema would get better. I mean, there are other things as well, but the gut healing is one of the main things. I mean, there's also essential fats that are missing with eczema, so there's that piece as well.
Oh, that's no. I mean, people should know that that they should not just go to a maybe not just a dermatologist, but find out what's happening inside. So yeah.
Yes, but our society is vain. It's typically with those symptoms that people come with faster than the gut issues ever. And to be fair, they might just have the skin issues, and it takes a lot of education to tell them that we have to look at the gut also. I mean, similarly with rosacea, which we call adult acne, it's very closely related to dysbiosis. Or acne is related to hormones and then gut dysbiosis. So we talk about processed food a lot with my teens, in addition to like hormonal health and
Yeah, and teenagers have a lot of stress, so that probably is also
adding to it, all kinds of physical, hormonal stress, developmental stress, all packaged into one.
So Ayurveda also says everything is stemmed from the gut. So so how is it different from what you're practicing or integrative medicine?
Yeah, so that is what Ayurveda focuses on, and then they have that the 4 doshas, right? Pitta, Vayu, and that's the philosophy behind it. Integrated medicine is more about, yes, using the conventional medicine, but then also pulling. So integrative medicine might use some of the things from Ayurveda, some of the herbal medicines from Ayurveda. But again, we probably have to have more evidence-based research on the herbs that are, not to say that Ayurveda does not work. It absolutely, it's been around for so many centuries. It absolutely does work for things. But when we pull it into integrative medicine, they're more standardized dosings, more of having been through R&D and, so I would say that's the bigger difference between Ayurveda and integrative medicine. But we absolutely pull from Ayurveda.
Okay. Shivani, so if you wanted to give the listeners one takeaway, one message, what would it be?
So yeah, from this whole conversation, which I've enjoyed a lot, I would say let food be thy medicine. That would be a crucial message. And then remember that gut health is foundational for your hormonal health, your immune health, your mood and emotions. And it's always about the whole person. So gut health is foundational for that.
Well, thank you. I want to have many more conversations, so we're going to get you back on hormone health and teenage health and some other things. But if people want to find you, where can they look you up?
So our website is.
I'll put it on the show notes. I'll put them in the show notes, but you can just say it now.
Okay. So website is i-haa.com. And on Instagram, I'm Integrative HNA.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And we'll be getting you back on soon and have, what time is it there now? About 10 p.m.?
It is about 10 p.m. Yes,
Okay.
It is.
Thanks for everything. Thanks for spending the time with us.
Thank you for having me on the show. I really enjoyed it and look forward to having many more conversations with you.
Bye.
Bye.